Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to make over some items for cottage style decor. And we're going to start with this little table, and it looks like a Bible table, but it's either a child size or it's a salesman's sample. But somebody has painted some ivy on it, and although I think that's pretty, I'm going to make it over. Now I'm going to paint the whole thing English ivy, and that's a Dixie Belle color. So I'm going to paint everything except the top of both of the surfaces at the top. So I'll paint around the edges of both shelves, or I guess one is a shelf and one is the tabletop. The tabletop and the top of the shelf, I'm going to paint in the color drop cloth. So I'm painting the rest of it, the English ivy, and I put 2 coats on it. Now this is a somewhat new Dixie Belle color, and I just love it. I think it's just the right color of green for a lot of the projects that I do. And it covers really well. I could have almost gotten away with just 1 coat, and maybe I could have, but I wanted to make sure that it had a good even coat on it, so I did 2 coats. Now I'm going to add a transfer to this one. It's called White Magnolia, and it's a Redesign with Prima transfer. I've already used one of the sheets, and I can't remember exactly what was on it, but I'm going to use the remainder of this transfer on this. So I'll put the larger image on the top and the smaller image on the bottom. Now I'm not going to distress this because I had the lighter color under it and I didn't want black distress. So I'm just going to just distress around the very edges of the top of the shelves. As you can see there, I need to clean that line up some. So that's the only place that's going to get any distressing. And then I'm going to finish it off with a clear coat, and this will make a good little plant stand. Now the next item that I'm going to make over is this little bucket, and it's a wall bucket, and it's for putting flowers in, probably faux flowers, because I don't really think that these buckets will hold water that well. But I've already painted the top of this in the color drop cloth, and I painted it 2 coats, and now I'm going to paint the bottom. I have that little raised ridge there to have a good stopping point for my paint, and I'm going to paint the bottom in the color English Ivy. And I'm not painting the inside of this one. Some of the buckets that I'm redoing, I have about 3 or 4 left after this one. I think 3 after this one. I bought these at one point wholesale, and that finish there on the bottom with just a little bit of yellow on it is what was originally on these. And they sold pretty good for a while, and then they just stopped selling. So I have much better luck selling these when I paint them. So I'm going to paint this one to go in a vignette. And although this is the only one that's going to go in this particular vignette, I'm going to go ahead and do the others and show them in this video finished, but again, they won't go in this particular vignette. Now, if you watched me long, you know that what I usually do is 3 to 5 items, and usually around 5 items. And I put them together in a small vignette before I put them in the store where they're going to be. But I'm starting to do things differently, and it's out of necessity, actually, because I've gotten really behind in my store. And because of that, I need to fill in some areas. So at one point in my channel, I would try to occasionally set up a vignette area in my store. But I've found that really hard to do because of customers coming in and out. So what I'm going to do is just kind of work these into some vignettes that I already have that need some work. And I'm just going to kind of do them all together so that when I show these at the end, instead of showing them by themselves, I'm going to show them worked into a vignette. 2 years in, and I'm trying still to figure out what works best for my channel and store together. And since obviously I still have to work a full-time job, I need to make them work together. So I think this is going to be a good change because it will force me to keep my store filled in. Sometimes I'm working harder on a vignette for a video and then I end up neglecting parts of my store. So this way I can just kind of walk around my store, and when I find an area that needs some help, then that's the type of items that I'm going to be working on. So I think this is going to be good. I can't say for certain, but I think this is going to work well. Now for this can, I added some more of that same transfer called White Magnolia, and I will include that link in the description. And now this is a stencil that I have, and obviously I'm not going to use that truck, and that's the great thing about stencils is you can use only parts of them and get so much more use out of them. Now for this can, because I don't have a good color underneath to distress down to, I'm just going to use a permanent marker and just add some distress around the top. I actually add quite a bit around the top and the bottom, and then the little ridge in the center. And then as you can see, I even put some little nicks here and there with that marker. And then I'll finish this off with a clear coat. Now I had a viewer that asked me if I could show more of my doing the top coat on this or on my projects, and it was a little late for this one. I already had my footage done. But for this one, I just used a clear matte finish from Rust-Oleum and just took it outside and sprayed it. And that's how I did my top coat. And so I did one coat, one light coat, let it dry well, and then did another one. Now, obviously, I don't do my viewing or my video taping outside, so I'm not going to be able to show when I actually do that. But I will be adding a brush top coat on some things. And I showed some of that in the first project by using, by brush coating the top of that little plant stand. So that one I did do on video, but she's right, I hardly ever show that step. I guess I feel like it's kind of self-explanatory, but it is nice, I think, for you guys to know the brand sometimes. And I don't know if I mentioned on that one, but I used the polyurethane, polyacrylic is what I used by Minwax. And I used a satin finish or a gloss finish on that because it was underneath. And I wanted to, the gloss seems like it blocks stains from coming through a little better than a matte or even satin finish. So on this next one, my friend Paula brought me some of her transfers that she had left over that she wasn't going to use. And because of that, they were kind of mixed together, so I don't know what set this is. I know that it's IOD. And Paula, if you're watching, if you could say where this one and the next one, what set, if you know what set it's from. But I just couldn't figure out what set they were from. And I'm putting one transfer on this one and one on the other one. And for both of these, I wanted to use more of a neutral color so that I could work them. I hadn't decided at this point what vignette I was going to work them into. So this is the color Burlap. And still on the top, I'm using the color Drop Cloth. And then still with this one, when it's finished, I will add the Distress with a permanent marker and then let that dry well and spray it with Rust-Oleum matte finish clear coat. Now I'm going to be showing one more bucket. I'm just going to show all of these together that my sister did. And then I think after that I'm going to have, I think only one left. But I really like the one that my sister did. She did it in more of a shabby chic look. And I forgot to mention that on the first can that I did for the vignette, I used green, olive green, stays on ink. And I just felt like that went with the color that I put on the bottom better. And I also called this color Burlap, and it isn't Burlap. The colors are really close, but this one is the color Putty, and that's also the color that I used on the other buckets. So, not Burlap. This is Putty, which is also a Dixie Belle color. And here are the completed wall buckets. And as you can see, that is such a beautiful color of pink there. And I think salmon might be the color that she used on that, but I just think it's a very pretty shabby chic look. Now, these are some little simple stools that we order out of Mexico. Actually, we get them from Texas, but they come from Mexico. And they come just bare like this and just very simple. And just haven't sold any plain like that. So, but I have painted a couple that have sold. And I'm going to go ahead and use that same color of English Ivy. And I'm going to paint the entire thing except for, I'm going to paint the underneath and the legs this color. But the very top of it and around the edges, I'm going to paint in the color Drop Cloth. Because I want to add some transfers to this, and darker colors are just not real good to add transfers to. I don't feel like they show up as well. So I'm just going to paint the top of this. But because this is just a raw wood like this, and maybe they put some sort of stain, I'm really not sure, but I didn't want to take a chance on it bleeding. So I'm taking some gloss finish polyacrylic and adding this to the top and letting it dry well, and then adding a second coat, and then you'll have a real good finish to paint that drop cloth over and not worry about it bleeding. So after I finished all that, then I just took my hand sander and just really, really sanded on this because I wanted it to have a really distressed look. And if you didn't notice, this stool, for some reason, kind of slants forward, and I think they're milking stools, so maybe that's why you're going to be sitting on it and milking, and that's why it leans toward the front. So I have to make sure that when I do this, I'm letting the part that leans down be the front of it. This is another one of those transfers that Paula brought me. Again, I'm not real sure which one this one came from, but I'm going to put this on and then add some stenciling to it because I'm going to stage this one as a gardening stool so that you can just kind of bring it with you and work in your garden and have it to sit on, but you're still down low to work. So this one, I'm just going to put Grow Blessings on this, and I don't like the animated look on the bottom of this stencil. I'm just going to use those two words. And then I will finish this off with a matte finish clear coat. And I just used Dixie Belle's flat finish clear coat. Now, I didn't get the footage of this, but I just bought some glass birds that were a set of 3 at a thrift store and cleaned them up, and then I painted a coat of Slick Stick. And Slick Stick is a product that you use on slicker materials so that your paint will stick better. And that's a Dixie Belle product. Again, it's Slick Stick. And it really works well to make sure that your paint sticks. And now I'm mixing some of the color Putty with some of the Sea Spray, which is an additive that Dixie Belle has that you add to paint. And it adds texture. Now, what I always do with this is just mix a little bit in at a time and stir it up well. And then if I need more, then I can. But it's a good idea to let it sit just a little bit because it does tend to thicken up as it sets. You can also mix baking soda and paint up to half and half. You can put up to half baking soda in your paint to make it thicker. But with both, you just add what you like. But I wanted some texture because I'm going to be using this color Putty, and I wanted to have, the reason I'm using such a dark color on these is because I wanted to be able to use a white wax on them afterwards, and I wanted that white wax to show up down in the crevices. So I'm going to give this 2 coats of this textured paint, and then let it dry well. It does take a little bit for this to dry because it's very thick. But I'm going to let it dry well. It's always a good idea to let it dry overnight. I didn't do that because I was kind of in a hurry, but I made sure that it was dry well. And then you can take a brush and put your wax on. I use a softer brush to put the wax on. Because since I hadn't let it dry overnight, I wanted to make sure that I didn't pull any of that paint off. And then I just take a cloth and just kind of dab it here and there and get some of the excess off. But again, I don't want to take too much off. And what I've done here is just take a 2x6. Sometimes when my vignettes just need a little something, I'll take a 2x6 and paint it. And I painted this in the color drop cloth, and then I'm just adding a transfer to each side. And in this case, I'm adding two different transfers so that I can use it in different vignettes. I always have these for sale, but sometimes I just use them to set up my vignettes. And then, of course, I will finish this off with Dixie Belle Flat Finish Clear Coat. And here is the transfer and stencil that I did on the other side. And now I think that will add just enough for this little vignette. And for my next video, I'm going to move on to another little area in the store. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.